Three, two, one. Hi, hello, and welcome to episode 38 of this glorious podcast. And we just passed the shortest day of the year. Can you believe it? It happened. We finally hit the low point. So it actually only gets better from here. Just don't read the news, okay? Look out the window, wait for the bright days. We're going to be getting more sunlight slowly from now on. So just sit there, look at the window. If it suddenly gets too bright unexpectedly, maybe World War III has started, so go somewhere and hide. And haha, what am I saying? Such a prankster. But it is. The darkest days are over, at least sun-wise. For the rest, I'm not sure. And we keep on going. I always like to know that every day it's getting a little bit more sunlight reaches us. So yeah, this has started. I have started. This is a podcast. Thank you for listening. It's almost the end of the year. This is probably the last podcast for the year. Someone might have thought this is a wrap-up situation, but it's not. It's just another episode. But yes, the holidays are approaching very, very soon. I hope you're getting ready for it. I don't know how it looks. Holidays can be very different for people, but most likely you have to see some people that you want, maybe some people that you don't want. Maybe it's a mix, you're somewhere where some people you like and some others don't. It is what it is. Wear your worst Christmas sweater and get out there, buy the gifts, do the wrapping. How good are you at wrapping gifts? Is this something you consider yourself skilled at? This is my absolute worst, but I always do it with a lot of fun and a lot of style. Wrapping things around, making it a bit of a interesting hustle to unwrap whatever it is I'm buying in there. But yes, gifts. This was a good year for the podcast. I have to say that this podcast started almost at the beginning of last year. Was something I had in mind for a long time. And I think the number one thing is proving to myself I can do this. Of course, keeping you company while you're walking, chilling, avoiding your thoughts, doing the dishes. I don't know what your favorite activity is when you're doing this podcast, and you won't tell me because you're shy in the comments. But yes, 1 year of this podcast, where we're hitting 1,000 listens in this year, which is pretty neat. Stable following, not world domination as we hoped. I think others are doing much better in that chapter than this tiny podcast that I'm recording from my computer in my apartment. But we can feel a buzz. We can feel a buzz and go somewhere. And maybe that's a good thing to do at some point. What else in this intro? The name still troubles me. I know I shared this a few times. Yet another expat. It's how I feel sometimes being here. It's a bit sarcastic because what is an expat? What is an immigrant? Blah, blah, blah. But it's not a very deep podcast about Berlin and my life here and integrating and whatnot. So I've been thinking of alternative titles. I shared last time one I called A Slice of Life, which I have to say is the most optimistic one from the titles that came after. The rest of the things in this short list that I have are A Slice of Life, We Are All Doomed, This is Pointless, Just Give Up, and Always Tired. These are the names that I have so far. None of them portrays the optimism that is hiding deep down in my soul. But yeah, I'll keep on thinking, and hopefully if this podcast changes its name, you will still find the way to follow it. And not just, if the reason why you lose the podcast is because you didn't spend 5 seconds looking at the new name or whatever, then maybe it's meant to be. But in all cases, the podcast now has a video version that I don't show my face, but I put subtitles because that's a nice thing to do. And whatever. All you need to know is that I still make these silly thumbnails. I create an image every time for this podcast. And this is the only reason why I still pay for Photoshop 10 euros a month. Have this open subscription, and it's just to make these stupid images. But I like you in this podcast much more than 10 euros a month, so it's all good. And let's get it started. All right, first topic, I named it, the world is going to shit. But yeah, end of the year, it's quite wild in the moment. If you look at it, France basically has no government and Germany has no government. And the EU as a whole has not much of a steer in any direction. Not that I want to make this a political podcast, but just touching a few things on the surface of how the world is doing these days. Elon Musk is living his wet dream of becoming a world overlord and saluting extremist right parties and all of that sort. And I just want to say, the scenario of going back to Greece and starting a farm was never stronger. I mentioned we all fit in a bus. Maybe we start making a big exodus all together. Let's see. The promise is there for those who sent me a message saying, I want to sit on that bus. This is how I will be doing it. But yeah, we're in this locked situation in Europe because France cannot do new parliamentary elections until July. So they need to wait until July to do any sort of decision-making and all that. And what about Germany? They don't have a government in place. Maybe until June, they need to do elections. The government collapsed at this point. So these are the two biggest heavyweights of EU, the power duo. They were supposed to be the ones steering the EU ship, and now they're stuck in political limbo. So yeah, the EU's decision-making machine is on a halt. Not that it was deciding a lot of things before, but it's now officially in a halt for many, many months. At the same time, the rest of the world is having some strong changes. So I guess we need to wait. And at the same time, there is the elections in Romania, there is Hungary, there is these governments that are very anti-EU coming into the mix that will probably veto like hell. So I wonder what the solution is. And I think I have a solution. It's not a great one, but I'm actually considering stopping news for 6 months, like to not consume so many news, especially about world politics and all of that, because I don't know how much it's offering to me. It's good being knowledgeable or just following what's happening. Also, the definition of a citizen, politis, back in ancient Greece was not only someone who is a functional member of society, but also someone who is able to be part of the dialogue and to follow things and, a bit more holistic thing than just going work and home. But maybe a little bit of that is needed. I almost clicked show fewer of this. This is a prompt I get from my phone around news articles sometimes. And I was very tempted to start clicking show fewer like this. Maybe I can surround myself with just reels and puppies and, pandas doing panda things and other hilarious situations than being too close to the reality of these days. I'll figure it out. I'm just working it in me. I don't know how close you keep the pulse of the world and the news these days and how much it affects you. But for me, that thought crept in. I will see what I do with it. But for now, we need to buckle up and see what is coming for next year. Cross our fingers, our legs, our toes, and everything for some stability. But speaking of, do you know who else is buckling up? Do you remember these poor astronauts that got stranded on the International Space Station? These two people, we talked about them in episode 25 back in August. But basically, I want to call them poor bastards, but it sounds like I'm cursing on them. I'm not. I really feel sorry for them. They joined, let's take it from the beginning. 2 NASA astronauts, Barry Butts Wilmore and Sunny Williams. They've been stuck on the ISS, the International Space Station, since June. Why? They were supposed to be there for 8 days. Okay, write that down. 8 days. And then Boeing, the aviation company, the spacecraft that they had wasn't really doing well. It couldn't bring them back home. They had to bring that spacecraft down to Earth without people. So they had to stay up there for a more safe option to come back. So yeah, it was supposed to be that they return in February 2025. So, from 8 days into 6 months. That's a reasonable extension of the duration in space with everything it brings. But now it has been pushed even further. End of March, no rush, Boeing. And these poor people, I can't imagine how it is having to stay stranded up there. But the biggest concerns are around their health, because when you live in space, basically there is no gravity. And your body very quickly figures out, wait a minute, if there is no gravity, if there is no weight pulling us down, do I really need to have bones? Do I really need to have these dense structures to try and keep everything from falling? Not really. Nothing falls here. Everything can just be. So bone density and muscle keeps becoming thinner and thinner. So yeah, these people are kind of screwed now because they will most likely have a lot of these fragility fractures. And besides, their body getting more and more fucked in a way that they weren't anticipating, right? Because if you know you're going to stay 6 months in space, you probably prepare in different ways for your muscles and your body. But it's also the mental thing. Delays, isolation, even the zero gravity concept. Some astronauts get a few weird things. They hear things, or it can be tricky. So now they must be under a lot of stress. Why am I saying all this? I don't know. I just want to give them a shout out and say, I know they have it bad. They need to wait in a tiny capsule for even more while their bodies are deteriorating. But hopefully they can stay strong. Astronauts are resilient. 9 months in space is definitely pushing it. Risks are growing, and March 2025 can't come soon enough. An honorable mention in this podcast for them having to wait so long. Being an astronaut is not an easy job, and things can go out of hand. Let's hope they get back home and we're not looking into an extended director's cut of The Martian or anything like this. And let's not talk about the fact they have to share all the amenities, including the toilets and all the weirdly specific things with a crew that's already in the ISS, cramped for space. So all the best, Barry Boots Wilmore and Sonny Sanita Williams. I hope one day you come back, and my thoughts are with you. Not always, just every now and then. Every 2 or 3 months, I wonder, what are you doing? Have you lost it yet or not? Are you devastated? Are they bringing you home? So I keep you in my thoughts, not in my prayers, but I'm doing my best. All right, let's move on to the next topic. From space down to Earth, down to lovely Berlin, which is getting ready for that bang, bang PTSD New Year Eve. I don't know how it is for you. Going to Christmas markets is a thing here, a beautiful thing to be squished together with hundreds of people, to see booths selling completely random stuff. The effort to push through all that crowd just to see another wooden bench where someone is selling soaps and ceramics is real. And all of that while having existential fears, because you don't know if a car is going to come speeding at you. This is, of course, comment to the tragedy that happened in Germany with a car speeding through the crowd in a Christmas market. And I have to say, I already had fears for stuff like that from way back in 2016. And yes, I know, a privileged European away from all the bad shit, getting scared that my little bubble might burst. But here I am. I'm sorry. I'm a real person and these things worry me. And all in all, the New Year and gatherings, they scare the shit out of me. It's just something kicks in with my social discomfort of a big mass, a big crowd. I get that in big concerts as well. Altogether, when I feel that there is not an easy way out, if anything happens, that causes me some stress. It's like a 3-4 out of 10 constant stress in the stress meter, just to have it going with you as you do things. But also fireworks, they also scare me. I had some experiences in the past mistaking fireworks for gunshots, but I really don't understand how Germany, and I might almost say a bit the Western Northern Europe, is so relaxed about all the types of fireworks and explosives that people can have. Like, how can a country also that has so many war people with PTSD from all these loud noises, so many pets, so many rules. Germany has so many rules from what breed of dog you can have. There are rules that don't allow you specific dog breeds, to how high the hedge can be. The hedge is like this green grass that you put around the houses. like a fence made out of grass. So there are laws that tell you how high that can be and what type of dog you can have. And all of a sudden, when it's New Year's Eve, they decide, damn all the rules, everything goes. It's like The Purge, the movie The Purge, if you have seen that. It's like no rules. They sell rockets and boxes of explosive fireworks on every supermarket. I was blown away when I realized that every single location can bring these things and just sell them. Because I was wondering, where does everyone find all these things? In Greece, you would need to go to hidden warehouses down in the port of Piraeus and know the right people and maybe bribe the right people to get any sort of rockets or loud fireworks or anything that could be dangerous to just operate as a normie. And here, it looks like a competition for which store gives the most. And I realized that that's not even enough for people. They go in their cars, they drive all the way to Poland because it has even more strong ones, even more bangy ones, and they stack up on those firework cracker explosives and bring them here. And people take them, they light these things on the streets. Being out on that day is an extreme sport, just existing. Groups of people or gangs, I don't know what they are, they can be fighting each other, throwing rockets like in straight lines, putting them on the streets while cars are driving, and all of a sudden in front of you, you see rockets firing, hopefully upwards, worst case in your face, targeting people walking or people at balconies. It is mental. I don't know what my plans are. Probably staying inside somewhere. But I don't know what your plans are or how chill things are. In Greece, we only throw fireworks in Easter, when they're singing that Jesus is resurrected. That's when we just give it all the illegal bangs people can find. They just start lighting them up and throwing them in the yard of a church, and things can go a bit wild. But it's much more contained in terms of time, in terms of space. Here it feels the city is a war zone. But staying again in Berlin, a different topic. If you have a business and you feel it needs a boost, what do? You can change maybe the menu. You can offer something different. You can make a post online and boost it to bring some new customers, maybe bring in an influencer, make some sort of a deal, an Angebot, as they say in German, maybe launch a new specific food. But the Berlin donor entrepreneurs don't need any of that. They only have one thing in their pocket when they need to pull out the big guns, and this is balloons. There's something about these balloons. They just get a bunch of balloons outside the store. It's usually 2 or 3 different colors of balloons all together, making a balloon chain, like outlining the store from outside in these balloon pillars going all the way to the top. And I don't know, what is this? Nothing else is different. It's not a new store. It's not like the grand opening of a store. Nope. It's not a new discount. There's nothing different going on besides putting these balloons up every few months. I haven't solved it. I think it just draws the crowds there. Maybe all the people who don't know that it's not a new store, maybe they think it's a new store and that drives customers. Has anything changed? No, I can guarantee you. It's just the balloons. It's like a thing. You need a refresh, you put the balloons. And yeah, people are drawn to them. Maybe we like shiny, colorful things like the crows. And the last thing I've noticed, because this happens a lot in the streets nearby, they never take the balloons off as well. You would expect that they pull this for a few days, then they take the balloons down and continue. No, the balloons will stay there. The balloons will stay there, and they will slowly become more and more miserable. Every day I'm walking by, I'm just looking at the balloons that are giving up. I'm just looking at the deflated ones and how many more are joining them. This is the slow decay of time. More and more balloons are deflated. A sad spectacle of an attempt to refresh. When the balloons have completely worn off, I guess the store will have returned to its normal status, and that's kind of it. Maybe there's someone who has a balloon business and everyone owes favors to. I don't know if I discover anything else around this strange advertising initiative. I will make sure to report it. And now for the next thing I want to share with you, we're traveling all the way to Japan. Yes, the Japanese have mastered a lot of things. It's like they are a little universe of their own. Speaking of parallel universes, they have brought the world gems like Tamagotchi and the Castle of Takeshi and Pokemon and that weird, crazy Netflix series that shows little kids going to do chores alone. Do you know that one? Wait, how is it called? Let me check this one. It's called Old Enough. Oh my God. What a name. This is a show with kids 3 or 4 years old where their parents sent them to do chores, like to go buy groceries and go all the way to, I don't know, the center of the village or the small town to go do things. And they just have hidden cameras follow them. That's it. And instead of someone reporting this to the police, everyone is just recording and having a good time. And if you haven't seen a child, a 3-4-year-old child having a mental breakdown after having a bag of oranges roll down a hill he just finished climbing and has to go down to get all of these oranges back in the bag, go up the hill again, and as he's almost there, he trips and the oranges fall again and roll all the way down. If you haven't seen a child having a mental breakdown over that, you haven't seen anything. But I'm bringing a new show, different show called My Eye, and it has a wild premise. So imagine this, it's a studio, the audience is waiting, there is a contestant or a few contestants, and there is a curtain. The curtain goes off, and you see a full room. Maybe that room is like a tea ceremony room, maybe it's, I don't know, a kitchen, maybe it's a child's room. It's a room that they have prepared, and one object in that room is made out of chocolate. And I'm not talking just, brown chocolate. I'm talking about these crazy things. Is it cake or not? This level of detail and realism. So the contestants, actually, they look at this room for a long time, and then they need to decide which of the objects might be the chocolate. And then what do? They need to go and test. Like, they need to go and try to eat it. So you can see a grown person being next to a chair, kneeling down, and see a close-up of the teeth going into the chair and starting to bite that leg. And you're wondering, will this be cake or not? It's freaking mental. I love this show, the facial expressions of people just diving their teeth into something and trying to squeeze hard to see if they can eat it or not. It's such a precious little moment. So yes, thank you, Japan. You can eat one thing, one object in the room is made of chocolate. This is just the type of TV I want to be seeing. This is the type of news I want to be surrounded with. This is a world that I can just vibe in without having to worry too much. So thank you, Japan. Keep being weird. We like you. We are slowly getting to the end of this podcast. Not fully. Usually when I say this, there's still some time to go. But one thing I wanted to share is that more articles, around microplastics. We haven't talked about microplastics in a long time. It's a festive season. Things are nice. Why not bring it back into the talk? But there has been a new thing around black plastic kitchen utensils. And let's face it, I want you to leave more. Microplastics are already in your wee-wees and your woo-woos and everywhere. And now it turns out that the plastic kitchen tools might be more harmful than we think. Any sort of plastic, especially plastic that gets heated, is actually quite bad. But those black plastic kitchen tools, they're often made out of recycled electronic waste, and they can be even more harmful than we thought. So, just consider wood or stainless steel or even silicone. That can be much cheaper. Now, I looked it up a little bit more. I saw this in a lot of reputable places, but I always check, and it turns out that the author of that Black Spoon's Kitchen study did admit that there was a miscalculation in the results. So the revised figures suggest that the risk is lower than initially suggested. So you might see this article and then see a debunk of it. But I still think it's a good one to put out there. It's not that they're harmless. They're still pretty bad, but less bad than the first article said, and still bad to have any sort of plastic that's being heated. The same goes for one-time plastic bottles, especially if they are exposed in the sun. Do not refill these. If you have microwaves, consider having non-plastic vessels. Same goes for ovens. I had this moment the other day in the bathroom. I looked around and I just realized how many things around me are made out of plastic. Like right now, in your field of view, if you start noticing from, I don't know, lights to the desk to things around the kitchen or wherever you are, if you're running in this podcast, you're the lucky one. You win, hopefully, the no plastics. But if you just take a snapshot of your field of vision right now and look how much plastic exists around you, it's quite wild. And I don't know, this may sound like a weird realization, but just it hit me being in the bathroom and looking around, from the toothpaste to lipstick to all the containers for things to part of the lamp that has a plastic grip to whatever. There's so much around. So where am I going with this? I don't know. If you have black kitchen tools, consider swapping them for wood. And yeah, that's it. That's it. You want to eat with your black kitchen plastic tools. You want them to be heating over your pans and dripping microplastics in your food. You go ahead and do that. You do you, and I would do me. And speaking of me being me, what's up with the rewinds this year? I know that the apps want you to feel special and to show you all your data and to build on that relationship. Look how far we made it this year, and look this and that. But I feel this year had way too many rewinds. Like Spotify gets the first. It's okay. Google was doing rewinds, but mostly here's what people searched in 2014, and here's the top whatever. And then the Spotify started, but now Discord wants me to do a rewind. Reddit wants me to do a rewind. I haven't pressed that button. Hey, Reddit, I don't want to know what a rewind I had with you, okay? But the most bizarre one I received was from Bolt. Bolt is a car ride app. It's like Uber. Why would I want to watch a Bolt rewind? What the hell is wrong with you? Why would I want a rewind from Bolt? Are you trying to get me depressed? Hey, Hermes, here's all the times in 2024 that you were too lazy to get public transport or your bike. Click here and see the rewind of how you made us rich. Oh boy. I don't know if you have noticed getting more of those yearly whatevers from all the apps that are trying to get as much of your attention as possible, but they're definitely multiplying. I can't wait for next year to see who else joins this rewind thing, but I'm ready to wrap it up, and I'll bring you one last thing. It's coming from Washington Post, and it's 7 best science-based tips for mental and cognitive health, because I guess this is something you might need next year as you look into the resolutions or yourself. Or maybe I am just, strongly projecting in this podcast, as the therapist of the future might say. I found it useful. Why not? So 7 things. Let's look at them. Number 1, sleep with an eye mask. I really, really agree with this one. Research shows that even relatively dim light, about the equivalent of a hallway light, it can be surprisingly profound psychological effects, raising your heart rate, reducing the duration of important sleep stages, and increasing insulin resistance. So consider sleeping with an eye mask. Just don't let your brain be confused if it's light or day or night. Give it complete darkness and tell it, hey buddy, how about you take a rest, shut down, stay chill. It's all good. So this is number 1. Number 2, and I just read how they've written it. Do sun salutations. It says that yoga is now being linked by research to improve cognition. And this is because a holistic mind and body practice like yoga provides physical and mental health benefits because it has 4 main components that work well together. Breathing. Breathing is such a hack. So important. I've talked about breathing in other podcasts. Physical relaxation. I like how in yoga they say when you need to relax, they start talking about feeling the weight of your body on the floor and allowing gravity to do its thing. It's an interesting way of trying to relax as much. But breathing, physical relaxation, mindfulness meditation, and postures. These are the 4 things. I will actually say a sun salutation literally is also cool. Get some sunlight in your face. That also activates a lot of things in our brain, tells us everything is all right. Number 3 is called stay up to date with vaccines. And if anyone is disagreeing with this on this podcast, maybe you're in the wrong podcast, but the new study in Nature Aging is adding to the growing evidence that severe infections are linked to accelerated brain atrophy and increased risk of dementia years later. Basically, if you have to fight a strong infection, it leaves a mark. That's the thing, it leaves a mark, and way down the line, you can get more deteriorated because of that. The risks of dementia can be higher. Recent studies have found that the flu shot may reduce the risk of dementia. That's number 3. I think we're all getting dementia because we lived in the boom of social media. Our attention spans are shattered. Our dopamine addiction is so high. I don't think our brains can stay in a chill mode long enough to make it work for later in life and accessing all that information we're bombarding our brains with. But in any case, do a vaccine. Who knows? Maybe it skips your risk for dementia. Number 4 of tip is to manage blood pressure. Hypertension, so if you have blood pressure high for a long time, is a double danger for the brain. It makes it harder for oxygen and nutrients to get into the brain, but it also makes it more difficult for the brain to get rid of metabolic waste. So high blood pressure can damage the small blood vessels in your brain, blah, blah, blah. It's not helpful. How do you manage blood pressure? Now that's a different topic. You can do it with exercise. You can do it with food. Remember what I told you a few episodes ago, even donating blood, if you have high blood pressure, that gives an instant relief in yourself, and it's actually very beneficial for you. So yeah, don't keep that blood pressure being high all the time. Try to bring it a bit down. Now this is sounding like too much, like I'm your doctor, but we are 4 way in. Let's go on 5. What's tip number 5? To try some JOMO, the joy of missing out. Here, finally, something less medical. Reframing the feelings of FOMO and instead turning them into JOMO. So instead of the fear of missing out, bring the joy of missing out. I can give my signature on this in golden ink. I love JOMO, but the research shows that the JOMO especially focuses on the effects of social media. There is a lot of joy of missing out. If you start missing out on social media, find some joy of missing out by choosing when you want to step away. It can feel rejuvenating because it helps us to stop being preoccupied with other people and what they might be perceiving, and instead focus on ourselves. So number 5 is JOMO, and number 6 is try to connect with nature and friends. No big surprise there, but the 2 main pathways that can lead to mental well-being. One is through the connection to nature and its aesthetic beauty. The second one is connecting with other people. And gardening is a great way to do both. Now, I know gardening is probably a luxury for everyone who can't find a 2-room apartment, but if you have access to gardening, it kind of does a lot of good, both in the mental well-being, bringing you to nature, but also in connecting with other people. This is getting too much. Let's go to number 7. Last tip for good mental and cognitive development is helping someone. Just help someone. Acts of altruism, which can be donating money, volunteering, or giving blood. Wink, wink again for giving blood. They benefit both the receiver and the giver. Research consistently shows that helping out fosters brain health and strengthens our emotional resilience and getting some good brain chemistry. All right. So many things to do. I know. I'm sorry. But this has been this podcast. This year is getting wrapped up. For one more time, I will say thank you for listening to these thoughts, news, rants, the whole thing. I have been Hermes. This has been yet another expert. I hope to see you next year. Stay cool, stay healthy, try to relax and disconnect during the holidays. Enjoy, laugh, eat, and I'll see you on the other side in January. Until then, ciao.